Today is September 30th, 2020. And I am joined by two co-hosts today. I have Carlos Ponce, who's in Cuernavaca, Mexico.
Yes,
and I have Mariel Navarro, who's in Chihuahua, Mexico. I'm broadcasting from Laguna Niguel. And we have Alex, Cornelio, and Nishaant, who are with Energy X Solutions. We're going to get to know them in just a little bit and talk about an interesting topic today, which is how AI can help us achieve deep energy retrofits at scales. I'm curious to learn what that is. But before we do that, let's get to know our guests. So please, who would like to go first to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll talk about the company. Go ahead, Nishaant. Please.
Yeah, thanks. I can start, and I always like to start by saying, first and foremost, I'm a dad to 3 crazy kids. They're all under 8, and I see them lurking around. So I'm going to apologize in advance if they bombard the room. I hope they don't. But that's really, as a nutshell, who I am. Also, I'm a co-founder, CEO of Energy X, which is primarily the company that we will be talking about today. We're a fast-growing technology startup. We're based in Toronto and Halifax, and we work with utilities actually all across North America and help empower their customers, which are homes and businesses, to become more energy efficient. In addition, my spouse is also an entrepreneur. She runs her own social impact company. And so having 2 entrepreneurs in the home running startups can be a little bit of a challenge at times. And then I'm also a business partner to Alex. And we really founded Energy X together around 4 years ago. And we continue on this journey together. So it's in these roles, father, spouse, entrepreneur, and business partner, that I focus on having the most impact. On a personal front, born in India, grew up in Dubai, worked across Canada, east all the way to the west coast, spent 6 years in Amsterdam, and that's where I met my wife. That's where I had 2 kids. It's where I met Alex, and we ended up deciding to co-found Energy X together, and then relocated back to Toronto and began the journey.
Interesting. Thank you for the introduction. Alex, let's get to know you a little bit.
That was great. I think I learned something about Nishaant in the first couple of minutes there. So my name's Alex. I'm the co-founder and the CTO of Energy X Solutions. I'm also a dad to 4 kids under 8. So we're very busy, Nishaant and I. Maybe I'm a little busier, which is why I braved coming into our office today to avoid the disruptions. I often think about how it is that we came to found Energy X Solutions. And I think for me, it happened sort of at the very beginning of my career, something that's stuck with me ever since. I've been working in the energy industry for about 15 years. And the first job I ever had was in the oil field. And if the oil field taught me one thing, it's that the average person does not have a very strong connection with the energy they need to fuel their everyday life. And this sort of idea has fascinated me ever since. And I think that a lot of what Energy X is about, and I think a lot of why AI is going to open new doors in energy efficiency, is because of the possibilities of using this technology to strengthen that connection, to help people understand more of where their energy comes from and how they can make use of it, and allow people to make really easy but impactful decisions. And I think that that's really the spirit of the company, and that's what fuels me through this, through the tough times and the good. And startup life is a roller coaster. I think there's a little bit of addiction to that as well. And I'm lucky, as Nishaant mentioned, to have a family that supports that passion. And I'm lucky to have a co-founder like Nishaant, who is a great, partner in that journey.
Well, thank you for the introduction. And by the way, went to the office to avoid the noise in the house is code word for I found a way to escape.
It's the escape hatch.
Let's call it what it is, which all of us want right now, to be able to escape the house. But anyway, in any case, thanks for the introduction. Tell us a little bit about Energy X Solutions. Let's go into that a little bit more. What is the purpose of the company? What markets are you serving? What are you trying to solve in the marketplace? And then we'll go right into the topic.
Yeah, for sure. And I can take this one and let me start it off. And I like how you started, because we really are very much a mission-driven and mission-focused company. And as a startup that's solving a problem that is global and scalable. You really have to be, right? So our mission is to provide every building in North America and beyond, really, with a very relevant and personalized energy savings plan that can empower them to take action. So in a nutshell, we make energy decisions easy. We're always pushing the dial on technology that enables us to live and breathe this mission. And so what is that? What is the philosophies that the company is grounded on? And we categorize it into three truths that we believe in. The first and foremost is that energy efficiency and conservation is essential for us to achieve our climate goals and sustain life for all future generations. We wholeheartedly believe in that. Every coworker that we had to date lives and breathes that mission. The second truth we believe in is that when you empower people, homes and businesses with information about their buildings, they start making smart choices and they start prioritizing things that matter to them. And the third belief or truth that we have is digital customer engagement and the ability to be a trusted advisor is the most effective way for utilities to engage with their customers, keep them sticky, and add real tangible value above and beyond just selling commodity. And so in an essence, it's these philosophies and these missions that have driven the company to where it is today. The problem we solve is twofold. On the customers, which are homes and businesses, we know they face high hydro bills. It's a global problem. We help them understand how they can lower those energy costs, how they can save money, how they can lower the carbon footprint. And on the utility side, the problem we solve is we know utilities around the world are running energy efficiency programs. They require customers to participate in these programs. They require the ability to automate and digitize these programs. And they need to do this in the most cost-effective way. And we provide them with that technology to enable them to do that. And so I'd like to conclude this section by really summarizing what the company does. And in reality, we provide utilities with an end-to-end customer engagement digital platform where utilities can virtually audit their entire customer base, identify homes, identify buildings that require retrofits and energy improvement measures, digitally target those buildings, engage those homeowners to participate in the programs, and then run the programs until they can start realizing savings for these buildings and help these homes and businesses lower energy spend. We've got the technology that enables that to happen end to end.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that introduction. So let's get to know how you're solving this. Let's introduce the topic of today. Carlos, what's the topic that they've chosen for today?
Absolutely. Thank you, Tulio. And thanks our guests. Thanks to our guests as well. So we're here to answer the question, can AI allow us to identify and achieve deep energy retrofits at scale? And in other words, we're going to talk about how data science is opening new doors in energy efficiency. So I'd like to ask our guests to begin with, why did you choose this particular topic? Why did you think it was relevant for today's day and age, please? Thank you.
Nishaant, you want to start, or you?
Yeah,
want
I can start. Let me start, and then you can solidify it with all the engineering training and background. It's a very relevant topic for the industry as a whole, right? I mean, if you think about what we do as a company, we provide technology for utilities so that they can engage homes and businesses, and they can help audit buildings, and they can then use that building data to help motivate or help incentivize homeowners to uptake energy efficiency measures and become more energy efficient. So the entire premise is based on collecting building data and understanding how this building data can be translated into energy efficiency measures that homes and business owners can participate in. And there's a huge data, machine learning, AI component to that. The problem we're solving is traditionally in today's world, if you want to audit a home, you have to have an experienced auditor go into the home, spend 2 or 3 hours, collect all these data points, plug it into a model, and then generate a home energy report. And that's a costly process. It's a time-consuming process. There are more than 100 million homes in North America today. Less than 1% of them actually go through home energy audits because of this process. What we wanted to solve is the ability to use AI and machine learning to virtually audit, produce evaluation grade audits for homes at scale, So we can hit all of those 100 million homes and provide insights and data, and then narrow that down into homes that actually require energy improvements to happen. And so it's a very relevant topic for the industry we're in. It's a relevant topic to help us achieve these climate change goals. And it's a topic that really AI and machine learning solves really well. And then perhaps I'll segue here to Alex to really walk through why AI is so effective in a problem set like this.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just maybe quickly to talk about what makes AI special here is that I think especially today, where we live in a world where we're forced to often work from home or socially isolate, where there's much more hesitancy to bringing contractors and other people into the home. I think that just adds one more barrier on top of people, homeowners wanting to have an energy audit and wanting to improve their home, even though now we're spending even more time there. What data science allows us is sort of a predictive window into areas that previously only humans could interact and make the types of decisions and do the type of analysis that was needed to really start this journey towards more efficient buildings. So data science now more than ever may be the only option that we have to best understand the building stock that we're dealing with today, and also how we can improve it, make it more energy efficient.
Yeah, and at scale. I think that's a really important point as well. The beauty of AI and machine learning is the ability to really scale something by and large. And that's really where we're seeing the greatest leverage. And to be able to do it very cost effectively, I think it becomes very interesting to all of the utilities we start working with.
This kind of reminds me, Tulio. Maybe you recall the conversation we've had with Bikat Chaudhry from Buzz Solutions, and we had a discussion about how AI and software could help in preventing things like power outages, forced power shutdowns, even climate change effects. So wildfires for power grid infrastructure, all these very timely topics. So I'd like to ask you, maybe Alex, you can help me with this. And I know that my question is more on the user end side because I'm not an engineer, so I leave that to Mariel. But how would you say that? What is best, the most? Let me word my thoughts. What is the most readily applicable possibility for AI and software in monitoring energy infrastructure? What would you say that this can happen in a seamless fashion?
Well, I think that to do the sort of thing that you're talking about, the technology largely already exists, and so that's the really exciting point. One of the applications that we're excited about is to use this AI model that we have. We call it retrofit AI, but basically what it does is it figures out what's the energy consumption of a building given certain characteristics of that building. What the model can then start to do is it can say, well, what happens if we change some of those characteristics and model the building's performance in a different way? What if we put more people into that building, or we give it better attic insulation or a very efficient heating and cooling system? How would that building perform then? What you can do with this is now you can run a whole bunch of scenarios and you can understand different modes of building performance, and then you can actually look at how the building is actually performing. Utilities are dealing with sort of an overload of data about how buildings are consuming energy today. And I think this is a perfect use case for that data. We can better understand if a building is operating to its full potential, if it's operating to its worst potential, and then you can find people with the best savings opportunities and target them with energy efficiency measures or other offers and promotions that normally you would never know to target that customer for, because all you understand basically is what their consumption is. You don't really have any context for whether that's good or bad. And I think there's a lot of different companies applying AI in various ways to try and solve this problem. We just happen to have a unique focus on the customer's buildings and understanding them, and we think it's highly beneficial.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question. One of the things you state on your site is that your solution automatically finds, targets, and enrolls customers with high savings potentials. Which customers are we talking about? Are we talking about commercial customers or residential, or both? Can you clarify?
Our focus is on residential and small business.
Okay.
Because we find from a building prototype perspective, there's a lot of similarities in the way building structures are created, and we can really start using building models to start extrapolating data points. And so that's really been our core focus. And we find that's also a sweet spot because there's a lot of engagement to be done in the residential space. There's a lot of engagement to be done in the small business space, and cost savings can really make a big difference. And especially if you look at low-income households, especially if you look at rural communities, especially if you look at small businesses who are now coming back online post-COVID and really have to figure out how they can lower their cost structures. And so that's been our sweet spot to date.
So how does it work? So my area, we have 3 tiers of energy rates, right? There's a peak rate, and then there's like a double charge for extra going above and beyond your peak rate. I'm still trying to figure it out myself, to be honest with you. So how does it work? I'm a residential customer. How do I sign up? How do I get this to work for me? Because I'm assuming you have to have a Wi-Fi enabled thermostat, for example, or grid. How does it actually work?
So let me start, and then Alex can continue. We're software based, so we don't deal with hardware, right? So our platform is white labeled by the utility. They brand it and they roll it out. So they roll it out to you. So for example, through our models, we can look at a utility's entire customer base, and we can start looking at which buildings would require what improvements based on what we already know about the buildings and what based on the publicly available data we can collect on the buildings. So when a utility would reach out to you, they would reach out to you and say, hey, Tulio, based on what we know about your building, this is what we believe you could do in terms of improvements, whether it's building envelope, whether it's windows, whether it's insulation. You then have the ability to go online into a digital customer engagement platform where you will start verifying the data the utility already knows about you and start answering additional questions about your building. And then based on that, you will then be streamlined into specific rebates and incentives that you can then start taking action on. And so there's really no requirement for you to install any hardware. What we're really doing is using building science and using building data to already categorize improvements that you would qualify for, but then engaging you in an online a survey, for lack of a better word, where we're asking you for additional information to verify everything we know about you and then streamline you into a program. And then on the back end, we manage that entire program, so we ensure that you get the rebate, you get the incentive, you get the retrofit, and the utility can then track on the savings.
So in essence, you're acting as an agent on behalf of my utility, for example, who engages your platform and connects you with the consumer directly. Is that what you're part of? It sounds like a little bit of a concierge service for the utilities, or is this something that they manage themselves? How does it work?
Well, maybe I'll jump in here. So oftentimes what happens is that the utility is tasked to manage this customer engagement on their own. And you can imagine for the average utility, this is a real challenge. They have thousands, sometimes millions of customers. They're all slightly different, and yet they all have to be treated equally. Building processes and administering programs with this sort of a customer base to deal with, where you sort of have to touch everyone and you can't leave anyone out, drives tremendous costs for the utility, and yet they're tasked with ultimately delivering savings out of these programs. So what the software does is it comes in and it starts to automate a lot of those processes. It starts to make sense of all the complexity that exists in a utility customer base, and it then allows the utility to send targeted messages to specific customers. When the customers come onto a platform, it's sort of like there's already a profile waiting for them, because all of the information that the utility has about the customer that may be in different places within the organization, the tool can start to streamline and organize and present back to the customer in a way that it's easy for them to understand. So really the value comes in providing a bunch of computational power that is able to deal with all of the inherent complexity of running a massive efficiency program by a utility. And I think that's the secret sauce. We're living in a data revolution. We're living in a computational power revolution where, if you want, you just create an account on Amazon Web Services, and all of a sudden everybody has a supercomputer. We're just sort of turning this power on this problem of helping customers to engage in utility programs that already exist.
When you look at it from a pure startup perspective, right? It's an interesting question you asked, because you end up deciding, do you want to go down the software route, or do you want to go down the hardware route? And there are a lot of energy efficiency startups that are in the hardware business, whether it's smart thermostats or whether it's monitoring devices. The route we decided to take was software, because we felt that we could scale it a lot faster with less capital. It's less capital intensive, and it was the world that we knew going into it. And so what we've essentially done is built the software, built the platform, and now in the process, I think to date we've got around 17 utilities across the US and Canada that we're working with and that have licensed the platform. And we continue to grow, but it allows us to really scale fairly quickly and in a much more cost-effective way.
Yeah, I bet. Marielle, I think you have some questions.
Yeah, I do have one. Going back to Tulio's question on this being leveraged by users. Previously, you talked about decision making. Me as a regular user, that might help me to make decisions. But also, Alex talked about predicting. So, what kind of predictions can I make based on the data or the knowledge extracted from this data? Like me as a user, I don't know. Maybe I can, predict that maybe next year my power consumption will be higher or anything like that.
Yeah, you can absolutely make predictions like that. And really the reason that's sort of a wishy-washy answer is because ultimately it depends on exactly what the utility is trying to promote. What programs do they have available? Are they trying to help customers avoid high bills in the future? Are they trying to help customers recognize that there's a new energy efficiency rebate that they have available, or help people purchase charging stations for electric vehicles? There's any number of targets that the model can look for, but essentially what it's really trying to do is model how that building would perform when you do different things to it. And exactly as you said, this is really complex for a lot of people. It's very difficult to get a good understanding of how your building will change if you improve even something simple like attic insulation, because the climate is a factor, and weather is a factor, and the way that you use your home is a factor, and maybe that usage changes seasonally, and there's just so many things to consider. What data science helps us to do in general is take these really complex ideas and problems and turn them into simple recommendations for the customer. And the customer can be confident that corners haven't been cut. We haven't left out part of the analysis. It was just done automatically. It was done by artificial intelligence instead of a team of humans. So primarily, we're making recommendations about how to improve the building. But we also take into consideration things like where the building's located, how it's being used, user preferences, and all sorts of things like that.
And Marielle, just to add to that, if you go back to the premise of the company, our goal was never to generate millions of energy audits. Our goal was to generate millions of energy audits with one key factor, which is how do you get buildings to take action? You having information about what to do is great, but you taking action after you have that information is when we can truly fulfill the mission and values of the business, right? And of the startup and of the technology. So to your question and to Alex's point, we're able to help you understand and predict if you do recommendation A, which is change your building envelope, or upgrade your building envelope, or if you get a new furnace in, or if you upgrade your windows, this is what your energy consumption will end up being once you've taken that action. And these are the incentives and rebates that are put in place for you to enable to do that. So then you have the confidence that, hey, if I go ahead and I make this decision, this is the after effects of that decision, as opposed to just having a list of recommendations and not knowing what to do with it, or having a list of recommendations with no real understanding of the changes you will see once you make those recommendations.
So guys, without sensors and hardware, how are you triangulating the consumption based on what variables? Like, for example, are you tracking weather patterns in that particular area, i.e., there's a higher consumption perhaps in a certain time of the day because it gets hotter? That could be an indication that maybe they don't have enough insulation, or they don't have, or vice versa. In the winter, the heating goes up at a specific time of the day. Maybe the windows are being left open. Or how are you actually determining these things? Are there some formulas and algorithms that you've developed over time that doesn't rely on sensors that would otherwise provide that kind of insight?
The thing that we're actually, I'll say it like this: we're really lucky, because it seems like the laws of physics work. It seems like they're generally true, at least here on planet Earth. Most of the time, we understand how stuff is going to happen, and that means that there's a whole bunch of underlying patterns to everything that's going on, whether it's heat escaping through a window in our building or a furnace turning on or shutting off. Physics sort of governs that. Again, the problem is that there's just so much happening that to do the computation on these events in real time is just impossible. But because there's those patterns, we can train models to understand what is likely to happen. And if we throw enough information that's been validated, that we know is real, if we throw enough information at those models, eventually they learn to sort of discern the nuances of all that complexity using a surprisingly small amount of information. Some of our models run on as little as 3 data points, and they're really generic things like when was the building constructed, how large is the building, what type of heating fuel does it use. In other cases, we take in more specific data points. So we want to know information about, when's the last time insulation in the attic was improved, or specific weather information is almost always important. It's good to know where this building is performing. But there's a range of information, and the reason why it works is because however complex it actually is, there is an underlying pattern, and the model's able to discern that and leverage it.
And Tulio, if there are sensors available, if there are additional data points we can plug into, we'll plug into them, right? There's smart meter data, smart thermostats, monitoring devices. If there's additional hardware that the utility has available on their customers, or if the customers have available on premise, our software and our platforms can plug into that. The learning is that we don't need the hardware and we don't need the sensors to be able to predict, but additional data points will just improve the accuracy of it.
Right, and that's where I was trying to get to, because it sounds to me utilities who might be watching this that perhaps have stayed away from these kinds of initiatives because they're very hardware intensive, that problem's been solved. It sounds to me like you guys have solved that. So you have a way to at least get someone started without necessarily deploying all this infrastructure and all these data points. So congratulations. We're coming up on time. We have literally a couple of minutes left. Curious to learn a little bit more about what the journey's been like building this business. What have you guys learned about yourself in this process?
Well, you said you have a few minutes left, so there's more we can just. You can't ask 2 startup founders about that question with 2 minutes left.
That's the trick. You got to do it in a minute. So
that's the tease. Well, I'll give you 2 points. One is just to your first point about if utilities are watching this. Listen, there's 600 utilities in the US and Canada. We've spoken to each and every one of them. We continue to speak to each and every one of them, right? Because at the end of the day, our mission is to ensure that every home in North America has the opportunity to understand how they can save energy, what recommendations we can provide to them, and what programs they qualify for. So that we live and breathe that. What have we learned? I've just learned, I think it's such a difficult one. If I had to summarize one thing that I've learned, it's what is entrepreneurship? I define entrepreneurship as a process where you are pursuing an opportunity without having any control of the resources around you. And what I've learned is, as we've embarked on this journey, you need to start building up human capital, which are the co-workers around you that can help you live and breathe and bring your vision to life. You've got to build up social capital, which is all the networks and the clients and the relationships, so you can start getting this product into market. And the financial capital, which is dilutive and non-dilutive funding, or you bootstrap it, that allows you to grow and scale. And what I am learning is the importance of all 3. and how you really need to understand how you need to bring the human, the social, and the financial capital to life to really live and breathe a product that you can then bring to market and start seeing the results. And we're learning more and more of that every day. But just the reality of you start with nothing and then you start building something that you start seeing traction around, and just the everything that goes with it is fulfilling, but at the same time extremely challenging.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us. Those are great words of wisdom that other entrepreneurs could certainly take to heart. And wouldn't you say it's also important to surround yourself with people that have some expertise in those areas, right? You don't tackle that all by yourself as the CEO or the founder. Get people who are really good at one of those things and empower them to do what they need to do. And that's one thing I've noticed across a lot of entrepreneurs is the most successful one know how to bring in the people to help them and don't do it on their own. So congratulations. You guys have a great partnership, it sounds, from going back many years. We're up on time. Carlos, what do we got coming up tomorrow? We got one more show tomorrow, right?
One more show, Tulio. That's
Just
right.
stay with us as we wrap up, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so one more show, Tulio, and we're going to be speaking with Michael Gasiorek, the founder of Truth Cartel, which is in quote-unquote belief distribution agency, because that's how he labels himself. I'm kind of curious as to what exactly a belief distribution agency does, so I look forward to that. And this is a company that works with emerging technology companies. And we're going to be speaking about accelerating your authority, or 4 steps to winning over your industry. So that's what we have for today, for tomorrow, Tulio, at 1 p.m. Pacific, right here on Dojo Live, as ever.
Thanks, everyone. See you again soon.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for